I never thought my life could unravel so fast. I'm Charlotte, caught in a marriage that feels like a hollow shell, where my husband Ethan barely notices I exist. Each day, I'm drowning in the silence of our suburban home outside Chicago, craving a spark, a glance, anything to remind me I'm alive. But tonight, at a glittering company party on a rooftop overlooking the city, something dangerous is stirring. As the champagne flows and the music pulses, a forbidden temptation pulls me closer to the edge of everything I've ever known. Will I step back, or will I fall into a secret that could shatter my world forever? Picture this: a faint, golden haze settling over a quiet suburban street, the kind of place where every lawn is trimmed just so, and the biggest drama is a missed garbage pickup. That's where I've carved out my little corner of the world. My name's Charlotte, and at 35, I've spent a decade married to Ethan, the man who once made my heart race with a single glance. Now, though, as I stand in our modest two-story house just outside Chicago, staring at the small garden I tend to on weekends, I wonder where that spark went. Our home feels more like a museum of memories than a place alive with love. Neat, orderly, but eerily still. Ethan, 38 and a software engineer, is a man of few words, always tucked into his work or lost in the glow of his phone screen. I swear, some days I could walk through the living room in nothing but a whisper of fabric, and he wouldn't even blink. I've started to feel like a shadow, unseen, unheard, drifting through my own life. I'm not just a wife, though. I've got my own rhythm, my own grind. For the past 6 years, I've been a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized tech firm downtown. It's a job that keeps me on my toes, especially with a boss like Daniel. At 42, he's a force of nature, charismatic, driven, the kind of person who fills a room with his presence the second he steps in. His energy is magnetic, pulling everyone into his orbit, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't notice the way his gaze lingers sometimes, sharp and intentional. Working under him are Mia and Lucas, his 2 assistants who keep the chaos in check. Mia, 28, has a mind like a steel trap, organizing everything with a wit that cuts through the noise. Lucas, 30, is the charmer, always armed with the perfect words to smooth over any tension. Between the 3 of them, the office is a whirlwind of ambition and charisma, a stark contrast to the silence I come home to. Ethan and we've faded over the years. 10 years of marriage, and now our conversations are clipped, transactional. Did you pay the electric bill? Dinner's ready. That's about the depth of it. I can't pinpoint when we stopped really seeing each other, but the ache of it sits heavy in my chest. I crave something, attention, excitement, a reminder that I'm more than just a routine. I'm not saying I've acted on it, not yet, but the hunger is there, gnawing at me in quiet moments. A typical day for me starts with an empty bed. Ethan's up and out by dawn, off to his office before I even stir. I roll over, the sheets cold on his side, and drag myself into the morning. At work, the energy shifts. Daniel's voice booms through the office, rallying the team with a passion that's almost contagious. Tonight feels different, like there's a charge in the air I can't quite name. I'm standing in front of my bedroom mirror, the soft glow of the vanity light casting shadows across my face as I smooth down the sleek black dress I haven't worn in years. It hugs my curves in a way that makes my breath catch, the fabric cool against my skin, reminding me of a time when I felt desired. I turn slightly, catching my reflection from another angle, hoping to see that old version of myself staring back. I want to feel beautiful again, to feel seen. My fingers linger on the delicate strap as I adjust it, my heart thumping a little faster with anticipation for the company party. I glance over at Ethan, who's sprawled on the bed, his face buried in his phone, the blue light illuminating his indifferent expression. "Hey, what do you think?" I ask, my voice softer than I mean it to be. He barely looks up, just mutters a half-hearted, "You look nice," before his thumb resumes scrolling. My chest tightens, that familiar sting of being invisible washing over me. I swallow it down, force a smile he doesn't see, and grab my clutch. The drive to the venue is quiet, save for the hum of the engine and the occasional sigh from Ethan as he gripes about downtown parking. We're headed to a trendy rooftop bar, the kind of place that screams sophistication with its glittering city views and overpriced cocktails. I stare out the window, watching the Chicago skyline come into focus, the lights twinkling like a promise of something more. I try to make conversation, mentioning how excited I am to let loose a little tonight, but Ethan just grunts, his eyes fixed on the road, more concerned with finding a spot than connecting with me. It's like we're two strangers sharing a car, not a couple who's shared a decade of life. My fingers tighten around the edge of my seat, that ache in my chest growing sharper. When we finally step onto the rooftop, the atmosphere hits me like a wave. The air is warm despite the evening breeze, carrying the scent of expensive perfume and the faint tang of champagne. The space is alive, colleagues laughing in clusters, the clink of glasses ringing out like tiny bells, and the deep, pulsating beat of music from a live DJ vibrating through the floor. String lights crisscross above us, casting a golden glow over the sleek modern decor, while the city sprawls out below, a sea of shimmering possibility. I take a deep breath, letting the energy seep into me, a flicker of excitement sparking somewhere deep. Ethan, though, heads straight for the bar, grabbing a beer and settling into his usual detached mode, barely acknowledging the vibrant scene around us. I watch him for a moment, his shoulders hunched, his focus on the bottle in his hand, and I feel that distance between us stretch even wider. My gaze shifts, and there's Daniel, commanding the space as always. He's dressed in a tailored suit, the midnight blue of his suit catching the light just right, making him look like he stepped out of a magazine. I can't help but notice how the fabric clings to his broad shoulders, how his confident stride cuts through the crowd. He's holding court near the center of the rooftop, a glass of amber liquid in his hand, laughing with a group of executives. His eyes catch mine for a split second, and there's that familiar intensity, a silent acknowledgement that sends a shiver down my spine. I look away quickly, my cheeks warming, and try to focus on the party around me. As the night wears on, the energy on the rooftop shifts into something wilder, more untamed. The music pumps louder, the bass thumping through my chest like a second heartbeat. People are shedding their inhibitions with every sip of their drinks, the alcohol flowing as freely as the laughter. I've had a couple of glasses of champagne myself, the bubbles fizzing through my veins, making the edges of the world a little softer, a little less sharp. Colleagues who were stiff and professional just an hour ago are now dancing with abandon, ties loosened, heels kicked off. The air is thick with the scent of spilled cocktails and the heat of bodies pressed close in the crowd. I weave through it all, feeling the buzz, the thrill of being part of something so alive, so different from the stillness of my everyday. I find myself near the edge of the rooftop, away from the chaos, leaning against the glass railing. The city stretches out below me, an endless canvas of lights blinking like stars against the dark. It's beautiful, but it also makes me feel small, insignificant, like I'm just a tiny speck in this vast, glittering world. There's a hollow ache in me, a longing for something I can't name, something I haven't felt in so long. I wrap my arms around myself, the cool night air brushing against my skin, and let my thoughts drift. That's when I hear footsteps behind me, deliberate and slow, and a familiar voice cuts through the noise of the party. "Charlotte, enjoying the view?" It's Daniel, his tone warm, a little slurred from the drinks he's had. I turn to face him, and he's closer than I expected, his presence overwhelming in the quiet corner we've carved out. His tie is slightly askew, his sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms, and there's a flush to his cheeks that tells me he's well past sober. I manage a small smile, nodding, trying to keep my voice steady despite the sudden flutter in my stomach. Yeah, it's breathtaking. He steps closer, leaning against the railing beside me, his shoulder brushing mine. "Not as breathtaking as some things up here," he says, his eyes locking onto mine with a boldness that makes my breath hitch. We start talking, casual at first. Work stuff, the latest project deadlines, the usual safe topics. But the conversation shifts, like the tide pulling us deeper. He tells me he's always noticed my smile, how it lights up a room, how he's admired the fire in me, the way I push through challenges without breaking. His words hit me like a wave, filling up the empty spaces Ethan's indifference has left behind. I feel my face heat up, my heart racing so fast, I'm sure he can hear it over the distant thrum of the music. Then, his hand finds my waist, a gentle but firm touch that sends a jolt through me. He pulls me just a fraction closer, and I don't resist. I can't. The warmth of his palm through the thin fabric of my dress is like a spark igniting something dormant inside me. I glance across the rooftop, searching for Ethan in the crowd. There he is, near the bar still, chatting with some coworker I don't even recognize, his back to me, completely oblivious. He doesn't see this. He doesn't care. And that realization cuts deeper than I expected. A sharp, bitter sting that fuels something reckless in me. Anger mixes with a desperate need to feel something, anything, other than this aching invisibility. I don't pull away from Daniel. Instead, I lean into it, letting his presence wash over me, the heat of his touch at my waist like a flame I can't extinguish. My mind is a storm, torn between the pull of this moment and the weight of everything I've built with Ethan. But as I stand there, the city lights blurring into a haze below us, Daniel's voice lowers, a husky whisper that sends a shiver racing down my spine. "There's a private lounge downstairs," he murmurs, his breath warm against my ear. "Just a quieter spot to talk. Mia and Lucas are already there. Care to join us?" My heart stumbles over itself, a mix of excitement and dread coiling tight in my chest. I know I should say no, should step back and find Ethan in the crowd, but the allure of being seen, of being wanted, is a siren call I can't ignore. I nod, barely trusting my voice, and let him lead the way. We weave through the thinning crowd on the rooftop, the music fading into a distant pulse as we reach the dimly lit staircase tucked away near the back. My heels click against the polished marble steps, each sound echoing like a countdown to something I can't quite name. Daniel's ahead of me, his broad frame a shadow in the low light, and his hand brushes mine as we descend. A fleeting touch that feels electric, charged with unspoken intent. Behind me, I hear the soft murmur of Mia and Lucas, their footsteps steady, their exchanged glances loaded with something I can't decipher. It makes my skin prickle with nervous energy, but there's a thrill in it too, a rush I haven't felt in years. We reach the bottom, and Daniel pushes open a heavy door, revealing the private lounge. The space is intimate, almost too intimate, wrapped in an ambiance that feels like a secret waiting to unfold. Plush velvet couches in deep burgundy line the walls, their texture inviting under the soft golden glow of low-hanging chandeliers. The lighting casts long shadows, making every corner feel like a hidden promise. A polished table sits at the center, a bottle of expensive whiskey gleaming on its surface, flanked by crystal glasses that catch the light just so. In the background, soft jazz hums through unseen speakers, the saxophone notes weaving a sultry thread through the air. The room smells faintly of aged oak and something richer, muskier, like the lingering trace of forbidden thoughts. I hesitate for a split second at the threshold, my breath catching as the weight of this moment presses down on me. But Daniel's hand is at the small of my back now, guiding me forward with a gentle insistence, and I step inside. I settle onto one of the couches, the velvet cool against my bare legs, and find myself sandwiched between Daniel and Mia. Their proximity is overwhelming, Daniel's thigh brushing mine on one side, Mia's arm resting casually along the back of the couch, her fingers just inches from my shoulder. The heat of their nearness seeps into me, stoking that restless fire I've been carrying all night. Lucas moves to the table, his movements smooth and deliberate as he pours the whiskey, the amber liquid glinting as it fills the glasses. He flashes that disarming smile of his, the kind that could charm the stars out of the sky, and hands me a glass. "To unforgettable nights," he toasts, his voice dripping with suggestion, and I can't help but feel the weight of his words settle somewhere deep. I take the glass, my fingers brushing his for a moment, and bring it to my lips. The whiskey burns as it slides down my throat, a sharp, fiery sting that mirrors the heat building in my chest. My thoughts flicker to Ethan, still upstairs, probably nursing another beer, oblivious to the fact that I've slipped away into this shadowed den of temptation. Has he even noticed I'm gone? The thought twists in me, a bitter resentment bubbling up, pushing me further down this dangerous path. I've spent so long feeling invisible to him, and now, here, I'm the center of attention, every glance and touch a reminder of what I've been missing. I take another sip, letting the burn ground me, even as my resolve starts to fray at the edges. The conversation starts inuk. As the whiskey sears its way down my throat, I feel the last threads of restraint unraveling inside me. The private lounge seems to close in, the air thick with a tension that's almost tangible. I'm caught in this web of heat and whispered promises, with Daniel's steady gaze pinning me in place, Mia's subtle smirk playing at the edge of my vision, and Lucas's smooth voice weaving through the haze like a spell. The jazz in the background hums low, a seductive undercurrent to the storm brewing in my chest. I set the glass down, the crystal clinking softly against the table, and let myself surrender to the moment, to the raw, pulsing need that's been clawing at me for far too long. It starts with Daniel's hand sliding from the small of my back to my hip, his fingers pressing into me with a deliberate weight that sends a shiver racing through my core. His touch is rough yet careful, like he's testing the waters but already knows I won't pull away. I don't. I can't. The warmth of his palm seeps through the thin fabric of my dress, igniting every nerve it grazes. Then there's Mia, her presence softer but no less intense, her breath warm against my shoulder as she leans in, the floral notes of her perfume wrapping around me like a velvet curtain. It's intoxicating, a sweet, heady scent that mixes with the sharp tang of whiskey still lingering on my tongue. Her fingers brush the nape of my neck, a fleeting caress that raises goosebumps on my skin, and I feel my breath hitch in my throat. Lucas, ever the charmer, doesn't stay on the sidelines. He's closer now, his voice a low murmur as he leans across the small space between us, his words dripping with intent, meant only for my ears. "You deserve to feel alive, Charlotte," he whispers, and each syllable feels like a spark, stoking the fire that's already burning too hot to contain. His hand finds mine, his thumb tracing slow circles on my wrist, a simple gesture that somehow feels like a claim, a promise of more. The room seems to spin, not from the alcohol, but from the sheer weight of their attention, their desire, crashing over me like a tidal wave after years of drought. I let go, completely. In that dimly lit lounge, with the velvet couches cradling us and the shadows hiding our sins, I give in to the storm of longing and spite that's been building inside me. It's a blur of heated touches and stolen breaths, a dance of forbidden closeness that I know I'll never be able to erase from my memory. Daniel's strength anchors me, his hands guiding me with a hunger that mirrors my own. Mia's softness contrasts it, her presence a quiet intensity that pulls me deeper into the moment. And Lucas, his words, his gaze, they unravel me, peeling back every layer of restraint until there's nothing left but raw, aching need. It's a collision of desire and rebellion, a moment where I reclaim every piece of myself that Ethan's neglect has stripped away. I feel wanted, seen, powerful, for the first time in what feels like forever. But beneath the thrill, there's a jagged edge of guilt slicing through me. Every touch, every whispered word is a betrayal, a dagger I'm plunging into the life I've built with my husband. I think of Ethan upstairs, probably still at the bar, oblivious to the fact that I'm down here, drowning in this sea of forbidden heat. The anger that fueled me earlier twists into something uglier, a bitter satisfaction that I'm getting back at him, that I'm taking something for myself after years of being ignored. But it's hollow too. I know, even as I lose myself in this moment, that I've crossed a line there's no coming back from. I'm alive, yes, burning with a fire I haven't felt in ages, but I'm also breaking something sacred, something I once swore to protect. The thrill and the shame tangle together, a toxic knot in my chest that I can't untie. When it's over, the air in the lounge feels heavier, thicker with the weight of what we've done. There. As I slip back upstairs to the rooftop, the weight of what just happened in that private lounge clings to me like a second skin. My legs feel unsteady, my heart still racing from the intensity of it all. But I force myself to breathe, to smooth out the creases in my dress, to plaster a smile on my face as if nothing's changed. The party is still in full swing, the music pounding, the laughter of my colleagues echoing over the city skyline. The string lights above cast their warm glow, but it feels mocking now, like they're illuminating a lie I'm about to live. I spot Ethan near the bar, exactly where I left him. His posture unchanged, his beer still in hand. He hasn't moved, hasn't looked for me, hasn't even noticed I've been gone for what feels like an eternity. That indifference stabs at me, sharper now, laced with the bitter aftertaste of my own choices. I walk over to him, my heels clicking against the polished floor, each step heavier than the last. I stand beside him, close enough that our shoulders brush, but there's a chasm between us wider than the city sprawl below. I force that smile wider, tilt my head as if I'm just enjoying the night, and make some small comment about the music being too loud. He barely nods, his eyes flicking to me for a half-second, before returning to the bottle in his grip. Then, after a long pause, he finally speaks, his voice edged with more irritation than care. "You okay? You've been off somewhere." His tone cuts, like I'm an inconvenience for not sticking to his side, even though he's barely acknowledged me all night. I swallow hard, the guilt clawing up my throat, threatening to spill out in words I can't take back. Instead, I lie, my voice lighter than I feel. "Yeah, I just needed some air. It's stuffy up here," he grunts, accepting it without a second thought, and turns back to his drink. Inside, I'm crumbling, the weight of my secret pressing down on me like a physical force, crushing the air from my lungs. I stand there, pretending everything's fine, while every nerve in my body screams with the truth I can't voice. The rest of the night drags on in a haze. I sip at a glass of water, trying to wash away the lingering taste of whiskey and regret. But it doesn't help. I laugh at jokes I don't hear, nod at conversations I'm not part of, all while stealing glances at the staircase that leads back to that hidden lounge. I can still feel the echoes of their touches, the heat of their whispers, and it both thrills and sickens me. Ethan stays by the bar, detached as ever, and I wonder if he'd even care if he knew. Would it wake him up, or would he just shrug it off like everything else? The thought twists in me, a mix of longing for his reaction and dread of what it might mean. As the party winds down, the crowd thinning and the music softening, I feel more alone than I ever have, standing right next to the man I've shared a decade with. The drive home is suffocating in its silence. Ethan's hands grip the steering wheel, his focus on the road as the city lights blur past us in streaks of gold and white. I stare out the passenger window, my reflection ghostly against the glass, and wrestle with the storm inside me. Should I tell him? Should I shatter this fragile, broken thing we call a marriage with the truth of what I've done? Part of me aches to confess, to lay it all bare and see if there's anything left to salvage. But another part, the louder part, screams to bury it, to lock it away in some dark corner of my soul where it can't destroy what little we have left. The hum of the engine fills the void between us, and I realize I've already made my choice. I say nothing. I let the silence stretch on, a heavy, unspoken fracture growing wider with every mile. Weeks pass, and I try to stitch my life back together, but the seams are frayed, the fabric torn beyond repair. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.